Hello everybody, it's Catherine Marie, and this is Long COVID Real Talk. We are in Season 2 and Episode 5. The last episode we talked about how to be able to tell if you need better boundaries, and this is going to be about kind of tips and tricks for how to set better boundaries and things that are holding you back from setting better boundaries. As before, I'm reading things out of the book Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab. So let's jump in. Thought patterns that stop us from setting boundaries. You fear being mean. You fear being rude. You're a people pleaser. You're anxious about future interactions after a boundary has been set. You feel powerless and not sure that boundaries will help. You get your value from helping others. You protect your feelings about being told no onto others. I'm sorry, not. I think I just said protect. It's you project your feelings about being told no onto others. You have no clue where to start. And you believe that you can't have boundaries in certain types of relationships. And then it goes into explaining, like going down each one and explaining that. One of the things that then goes over the types of boundaries. But the thing that I liked was ways to handle guilt tripping that she talks about. One thing is to just call it out and just say something like, are you trying to make me feel bad about my decisions? Number 2, make the conversation about you, not them. It's nothing personal. I just have preferences for myself. Number 3, declare that you've made your decision and say something like, your response seems like you're trying to change my mind. So, in the example, let's see, this chapter 6 is about identifying and communicating boundaries. Okay, so when I set boundaries with one of the groups of people coming out to visit, I realized that I could do that because I had done that with another group that was coming out, and it had worked. So it says in the book, it talks about that there are 2 parts to setting a boundary. The first is the action of actually setting the boundary, and then the second part is the follow-up, because if you are in a system, either a family system or a community system, a group of friends system, that system is not going to want any change because it's been existing somewhat peacefully, or at least the people in it believe that it's been peacefully for a long time. And rocking the boat means that other people will become uncomfortable. And that's not, nobody likes to be uncomfortable, right? So there's going to be pushback if you try to set boundaries. There always is. And it's not because they're bad people. It's just because nobody likes change. It's hard. Okay. So the first thing that she says about successfully communicating a boundary is be very clear. Don't yell and don't whisper, just be straightforward. If you use complicated words or jargon, then people will miss the point and they won't understand the boundary. So be straightforward and be clear. And be precise. The second thing is to directly state your need or request or say no. Don't mention what you don't like. Ask for what you need or want. Identify your expectations or decline the offer. So an example of steps 1 and 2 blended together that she has here. A friend asks you to go to a party, but you don't want to go out. You would say, thanks for the invite, but I'll sit this one out. Another example, you're tired of hearing your friend complain about work. You could say, listen, I get that your job is frustrating. I want you to consider talking to someone in human resources or meeting with someone through your employee assistance program to talk about your frustrations. Another one, your mother gossips to you about your brother's new girlfriend. You can say, I don't feel comfortable talking about her in this way. I want you to be pleasant toward her because John likes her. And then another one, your partner frequently mentions your weight gain. You can say, I don't like it when you talk about my weight. Please stop. If you're feeling guilty, okay, so step 3 is dealing with the discomfort that comes from having boundaries. And the discomfort is the number one reason that we don't want to set boundaries. And it's very common to feel guilty, sad, remorseful, afraid, or awkward. So if you're feeling guilty, here are some reminders that she has here. If you're feeling guilty, here are some reminders. It's healthy for you to have boundaries. Other people have boundaries that you respect. Setting boundaries is a sign of a healthy relationship. And if boundaries ruin a relationship, your relationship was on the cusp of ending anyway. All right. I'm trying to find other examples here because these are the thing that I loved about this book is that it had so many practical phrases because that's what I really struggle with is figuring out what to say in the moment. Okay, so these are, for example, I want you to stop asking me when I'm going to get married and have kids. I want you to ask me what I'm feeling instead of assuming what I'm feeling. I need you to call me before you stop by. I need you to pick up the cake for my party on time. And then you could say, I expect. So the first 2 were I want, the second 2 were I need, and the third 2 were I expect. I expect you to show up at my graduation. I respect you to return my car with a tank full of gas. Don't waver. Don't say too much. Don't ever apologize. These are common reasons people don't respect boundaries. You are not upholding your boundaries with them. You didn't speak in a firm tone. You didn't state a need or an expectation. Your boundaries are flexible. One minute they're serious and the next they aren't. You assume people will self-correct even if you don't tell them what you need or want. That is a big one for me. I think it's a big one in general. You assume that people will self-correct even if you don't tell them what you need or want because you think, well, I was raised this way. I would never do this, so I can't believe that they would do that. I think that all the time. You believe that stating your boundary once should be enough. I also think that all the time. You apologize for having boundaries, guilty of that, and you issue consequences and don't stick with them. So this was also an interesting part that I realized the reason why I needed to set a boundary for one of the groups coming to visit. Because if I set the boundary, then if they cross the boundary or break the boundary, then it is my job to call them out on it in the moment. And I just lost my train of thought. Okay, let me move on to quick tips for handling boundary violations, because that's what I was getting to anyway. So tip number 1, speak up in the moment. When you remain silent, you give people the impression that what they said or did is okay with you. What you say doesn't have to be well thought out or perfect. Say something simple, like, I don't like it. Saying anything is better than saying nothing. Tip 2, verbalize your boundaries with others. Do it organically in conversation, such as, I don't like it when people come over without calling first. Tip 3, if someone violates a boundary you've already verbalized, tell them how the violation makes you feel. Then restate what you expect. Honestly, there are some people where I don't think that they have enough empathy to understand how anyone feels. So that may not work with everyone, but it may work with many people. And tip number 4, don't let people slide, not even once. Okay. I think that is good for now because, let's see. Yeah, no, that's good for now. I think we will probably do another one. I'll try to do another one soon, but I feel like this is a good place to stop because we just went over kind of how to do boundaries and then the follow-up. And the follow-up was always something that was also it's still incredibly uncomfortable for me. And I'm kind of dreading having a conversation with this friend or family member in the future after the interaction that I had today, because I don't want to come across like the B word or seem selfish or whatever, some bad word. So I'm going to keep working on this. Rome was not built in a day, and I think one of the most important things that my therapist told me one time was something to the effect of, well, when you're first learning how to set boundaries, you're not going to be really good at setting them. And one of the things that I noticed is that when you go from never setting boundaries to setting boundaries, sometimes the boundaries come across as very rigid because you're just trying to do something, so it can come across not very smoothly, but it just takes practice. And I think if we think about this in the context of long COVID, we desperately need to take care of ourselves. We have to do it because we are so sick. And if we don't take care of ourselves and advocate for our needs, then no one is going to do it for us. So boundaries, if you think about self-compassion, what is good for you? Boundaries are good for you. Boundaries are good for me because they protect us from other people's expectations or having to do things for other people when you don't have enough for yourself, because that's kind of where we're all at right now. It's just being in a place where we don't have enough in our own bodies and in our own lives. So we have to rein it in and go into, as my therapist said one time, conservation mode. Go into conservation mode. And conservation mode means you need a heck of a lot of boundaries. At least in my mind, that's how it works. So thank you for listening and going through this with me. It's really helpful to talk about it here and then be able to remember this when I'm in my real life going through the trials and tribulations of everyday life. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon. Okay, take care. Positive feedback helps to continue attracting more people who might benefit from this podcast. If you wouldn't mind leaving a review and subscribing to the podcast, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I also love hearing from you. please email me at longcovidrealtalk@gmail.com, or you can call or text 650-382-2217.